what is the Finnish education in an Asian context? Now, when I talk about Asian context, it also means the traditional form of education systems. Okay? In many ways, it is very siloed. And what we mean by that is it is taught in very separate subjects. Now, for Asian parents or the more traditional parents, what they want from an education is what is really the end game. The end game of, say, preschool in this case, because we're talking about early childhood. Now, what if we were to be able to reassure parents that for English, at the end of 6 years old, preschool, the child is able to read at the level of year 1, and not only that, they're able to do creative writing. Would that be okay? Now, what about math? At the end of 6 years old, the child is able to do multiple digits, addition, subtraction. They are able to do multiple digits, multiplication and division, fractions, distance, area, volume, algebra, calculus. In traditional systems, parents do expect to see the separate subjects, like you have English classes, you have drama, you have math, and you'll have science classes. They are also happy to see reading classes as separate from maybe a performance class, singing class. And so those things are usually taught in silos. So how then do we bring the Finnish pedagogy into such separate subjects? In the Finnish pedagogy, there are a number of areas that are very critical. Now, one of them is the whole idea of community. When a child gets educated, the whole community is involved. Like the parents are involved with the school, so are the grandparents and the teachers. They work very closely together. So one other thing about this community is that they live very close by, because all the children are studying in schools close to their homes. However, in many other countries, and definitely in Asia, grandparents may be living in a hometown. And you can't really bring them together because many of them may not even speak English, so they have their own dialects, and therefore it's not possible for them to come in and work with the children in the kindergartens or schools the way they do in Finland. So what we have done, or rather the Finnish Asian hybrid kindergarten curriculum has done is, I'll give you an example. Since we can't bring the grandmothers to the school, we get the kids to the grandparents. Like one of the storybooks that we are teaching the kids to read is called Gran. And one of the activities is what we put under social intelligence. So the kids are taught to look at what the grandparents do for them, and we ask them, what is it that you're going to do for your grandparents? Okay? And then we're also going to teach the kids what they can do for them to give them some extra help. One is to get them to learn how to massage their grandparents' fingers and hands. Okay? And so if the grandparents don't live with them, they can practice it on their parents, and then later on, when they do see their grandparents, they can do it for them. The next area that is important is cultural competence, which is the understanding of the world and how each culture or race or people come together to collaborate with one another. So it is critical to set this with the children from a very, very young age. So again, how do we do this? When we teach languages, like say in Malaysia, we are teaching Malay and Chinese. Or if we're in Indonesia, we are teaching Bahasa Indonesia, and which is the Indonesian language, and let's say Chinese. All right. So those are going to be taught using the local cultures. Right. If you're teaching, let's say, the Malay language, for instance, yes, we're going to teach them about food. So the Malay word is makanan, right? But what if we're doing rice? Yes, they're learning about nasi, which is, but what we're going to be doing is teaching the different types of ways the rice can be cooked for the Malay culture, like what we call the nasi lemak, which is rice cooked in coconut milk, or we have this thing called nasi impit, which is, direct translation, compressed rice. And we have nasi kunyit, which is actually rice cooked in turmeric, So they're young, but they can learn all these things. So the other one is for drama, for instance. They're going to learn performances, and we're going to do it, let's say, to introduce them to the Hawaiian culture. And why not? They're going to learn about a storybook or a story through a book, and it's going to be told through YouTube. Another, they're going to be learning about the Hawaiian dance and maybe a couple of words in Hawaiian. For Finland, okay, the social awareness amongst children needs to be developed from a very, very young age, and it carries right through primary and secondary, all the way to who they are as a culture. Now, for the Finnish Asian hybrid that we have created, we are going to explore through thematic learning the biodiversity of the ocean through the topic of Atlantis. Now, we are going to also explore under entrepreneurship in Atlantis how the government runs, and perhaps we're going to throw them a problem, how would the government take care of the sewage in the sea? The next very important area is personal, social, and emotional development. So you would find something like this, let's say in our English class, and we're dealing with a book called Pirate Adventure. The children are going to explore what is right and wrong so that they understand it inside. And we're going to talk about piracy, stealing of other people's rights and ideas and IPs. Okay? Then the other one is for drama or performance. We could get the kids to learn about taking turns, but we're going to do a performance that is on synchronized movements. And then after that, the kids can look at how beautiful it is. Then, so why is it important in the real world? Then we'll take it and link it to the importance of taking turns and not cut queue when you drive. And how do you like having communication in a math class? We are getting the kids to play games like hide and seek, but they're actually learning to count big numbers, forward and backwards, and that's what we're going to do there. In the area of expressive arts and design, there is performance in maths. It creates experiences to anchor the children's learning effectively. Like an example is they're singing to learn the multiplication tables. But at the end of the day, they are actually learning, we're also teaching them multiples, area and volume. The other one is algebra and calculus. In Finland, the teachers are able to take on, let's say, a topic thematically for 2 whole months and embed inside the math classes, the language classes, reading. They'll explore science, explore nature, and there's all these social, emotional well-being. There's also performance, very likely included in their learning for the children to explore as well. Now, in Asia, all these things are taught separately. If you want the children to learn empathy, there's a separate class for them, like under moral. It doesn't get embedded into the math. You don't have math in art. It's just not possible. The teachers are not trained that way. Now, what the Finnish Asian hybrid that we have created has done is to bring both together. So you can see that yes, there's a math class, but we're able to cross it together with the human skills. We can cross it over with language, etc. So this is what we're able to do to bring both together.